Are you a book lover or enthusiast? Do you need genuine and unique lifestyle products? Or are you looking for a place where you can find contemporary and a wide range of unique gifts for children and adults? Laterna is your go-to place for genuine and contemporary books and lifestyle products for wholesale and retail customers. We stock business books on management, leadership, financial success, entrepreneurship, personal development, and so much more. We carry children's fiction, non-fiction, educational books, CDs, and DVDs. We also stock Christian books on various themes, such as church life and growth, spirit-filled living, love, sex, and marriage, to mention but a few. Laterna carries life and style books such as baby and child care, beauty and style, conception and pregnancy, crafts, and hobbies. We also carry adult, children, and teenagers' Bibles, educational toys, framed art, gifts, greeting cards, home and office fragrances, stationery, teachings, and lots more. Our stores are located at plot 1611 Adiola Hopewell Street, Victoria Island, Lagos. Online at www.laternabooks.ng. Laterna, your lifestyle hub for book lovers. For inquiries, call 0803 301 4462, 0809 525 3223, 0809 525 3484, or 0809 525 3485. Chat with us via WhatsApp on 0810 023 4441. You may also reach us on social media via Twitter at Laterna Books, Instagram at Laterna Books, and Facebook at Laterna Ventures.
Thank you, Karen.
You're welcome. It is an honor to be reviewing your books today. The first book is Leading in a Storm: Practical Leadership Strategies in Crisis Situations, and Beneath the Surface: Essays of Nigeria's Checkered Journey. And these are two powerful books, but I'm going to start with this one, which I absolutely love. Leading in a Storm: Practical Leadership Strategies in Crisis Situation. And it just reminds me of the state of the nation now and what we are going through, and how, for me, I feel the leaders have failed the people of this country, where we need words like this to bring us together, to inspire hope, and have faith in the competence of the people we put in power. What are we getting wrong in this country? Is leadership really the problem of Nigeria?
It is. And I will be re-echoing that legend, Chinua Achebe, who said there's nothing wrong with our land, nothing wrong with our people. The challenge we face is purely and squarely that of leadership. Now, if you look at the Mandela story, or the statement you just read,
Yes.
Mandela started by admitting a reality. He didn't deceive the people. He didn't manipulate the people. Today, most of our leaders are different strata. In corporate organization, or the local government level, state level, federal level, most of our leaders will not admit reality and tell us the truth and nothing but the truth. Mandela did. That's how he started. By telling black South Africans, and indeed all South Africans, the reality is that Chris Hani has been assassinated. There's everything wrong with the assassination of Chris Hani. That's how he started. By being honest, transparent in his communication, vulnerable with the people. Now, he took the next step. Reminded the people in their period of distress A white woman, a white person killed Chris Hani. But it's another white woman that drew our attention, that ensured that the assassin is brought to justice. But what Mandela did that was unique, he reframed the situation. Now, very often, we don't see any good in crisis. When we're facing challenges, there may be something good. Our leaders don't dig deeper to say this crisis we're facing. Today, the reality is that we're facing insecurity. That's the truth we must tell ourselves. Now, in dealing with insecurity, what other problems can this help us fix? That was what Mandela did. Mandela reminded the people, apart from reframing it, and said, listen, the assassination of Chris Hani might just be what will water the seed of our ultimate desire, freedom. He reframed it. He started by admitting, but now reframed the challenge and took a step further to say, listen, gentlemen, our desire all our life, what we've been all along, what we've been passionate about, is that one free and fair elections that will guarantee us freedom, so that every South African will have a sense of dignity, a sense of purpose, limitless opportunity to accomplish whatever you want to accomplish. He simply reframed what has happened and got the people to understand that change requires sacrifice. The old system is the apartheid system. The new system, let Chris Hani's assassination be the catalyst for the new system that requires sacrifice. Ultimately, he now got the entire country to view the assassination of Chris Hani from a different lens. That's what our leaders are not able to do. To view whatever challenge we face from a different lens. And for our own leaders to start by making a sacrifice, not telling us to make a sacrifice. They, the leaders, must lead by example. Model the kind of behavior they want from us, the followers. Mandela modeled the kind of behavior he wanted from the followers. The first thing, he exercised emotional control. He was able to control his own emotions. Who said he was not angry? Who said he was not distressed? He exercised control. And his moral authority became contagious. Others were able to exercise control. After his speech, he wasn't president of the country, but he was a leader. And that tells us something again, that leadership is not defined by title. Leadership is simply an act and the discipline of influence. He got South Africans to believe him, to calm down, and decided that, listen, could this be a prize for what matters most to us? He led them to action. Leaders lead from the front, not giving instructions. Leaders are those who are willing to make sacrifice. And one quality a leader must have, both in good times and in times of crisis, is emotional control. Ability to regulate your own emotions. It is right to be angry, but it's more important to have control over yourself before you seek to control others. Mandela exhibited a height of emotional regulation. He was able to regulate his own emotions. And so, whenever we face challenges in homes, in organizations, in churches, do we exhibit emotional control? Or do we let whatever that development is control how we respond? It is good that things can happen, but it's more important that you're in control of your own emotions. That's what the Mandela experience taught us.
So I want to ask you, without citing any other of the case studies in this book, was there any personal experience that shifted your understanding of, leadership in crisis, that, or a particular crisis situation in your time in service or in your life that shifted your understanding of what leadership is and ought to be in time of crisis? Using you as a case study.
There are several, and I mean several. But I'll tell you something. Let me go back in time. Many years ago, I was Commissioner for Works in River State. Under a previous government, before I became commissioner, they had built a bridge. And that bridge was open for use. You know, the collapse of bridge is unusual. Yeah. It's not normal. At the time, we were building roads and bridges. And suddenly, someday, unexpected, no sign, a bridge on a major road collapsed. It put to question the professional integrity of the ministry I was manning. I knew that people lost confidence. I also knew that I was personally challenged. My own values. When that happened, I realized that some engineer in the ministry had written a memo drawing my attention to it. They gave it a wrong caption, the file. Those days, you know, you do with manual papers or physical papers rather. And because he gave it the wrong caption, I didn't open the file in time. And so this person had learned that he had drawn my attention as commissioner, that bridge had developed. It was a bridge of concern. Let me use today's language. Not country of concern.
Concern.
And so I immediately had to communicate with the public. That was the first thing I did. To say, listen, we are aware that this has happened. By then, I wasn't very experienced in crisis management or leadership. But even with my instincts, I simply addressed a press conference, acknowledged that I know that this bridge had developed, had literally packed up, developed some crack and all of that, was not safe, and that we're going to close the bridge, and that we're also digging to the root of the matter to find out the causative factor. But that didn't stop us from taking other actions. Whereas we invited experts from around the world, not just from Nigeria, to find out what happened, we also got the original contractor to find out what happened. We are communicating every single day to keep the public abreast. Now, the blame game started. Who is responsible for this failure? Some said, listen, the commissioner, because he was informed, he didn't do anything about it. Oh, those who approved the original bridge for use. Oh, those whose function was to monitor the bridge before now. And different blame games. As far as then, without knowing the full context, I accepted responsibility. And that was what more important is safety. But after that incident and the things that happened, it got me thinking that this was a crisis that exposed the public to terrible risk. And how do you handle, as a government official, how do you handle such a case? We could have lost many more lives than happened. But at least we're honest enough to admit that, look, these things had gone wrong and that we take responsibility. In course of researching this book, I remember that case and the things I got right and the things I did that were not right. So it challenged me. There are several other cases that I realized that there were a few wrong decisions and a few other good decisions.
Thank you so much. And just to wrap up, because we have to go to the next book, is what impact do you hope this book will have on your readers? What exactly are you hoping to achieve with this book?
There are several impacts, but the three most important impacts that I expect is that if most of our leaders realize or come to the awareness that we're in a period of rapid change and they have no control, and therefore we must lead in a different way. We must be sensitive to things going on around our environment. At every point in time, we must understand context. We must communicate effectively and honestly. We must make decisions on our feet, and that we must be strategic in our decisions. And we must learn. We must open our minds to learn with every incident at every point in time. And that our leadership style must be iterative, must change, must be flexible. Then we would have achieved our goal. So if we have a critical mass, have a different mindset, that look, this is a period of rapid change, induced by technology, by environmental factors, by socio-political factors, economic factors, geopolitics. That's one. Now, two, is that if we have a new generation of leaders that imbibe some of the competencies that we have listed here or found out ourselves in course of research, understanding context. No two contexts are the same. Understanding that whenever you're faced with challenge, use whatever information that is available. Create a coherent narrative so that others will share similar understanding. If you are willing to collaborate, knowing that you don't have all the answers, and if you understand that it's important to be honest, transparent, and accountable whenever you're given responsibility. These are some of the competencies that you need, not just leading in stable times or what we call normal times, but leading when you are challenged, leading at a time of rapid change, leading at a time when you have limited information, time pressure, and limited resources.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. The copy is available. This is Leading in a Storm, Practical Leadership Strategies in Crisis Situation. It is very insightful. You will gain a lot. It is a book for everybody. Everybody should get a copy. I'm going to move on to the next one, which is this.
And just one more thing.
Yes.
Now, if you go through the book, you discover that we told a lot of stories. And we put spotlight on a lot of principles. Now, the way you apply these principles in aviation may not be the same way you apply the principles in shipping, may not be the same way you apply the principles in a marketing outfit, in an engineering outfit, but they all find application in the different spheres of influence, in whatever sector you're playing. And I'll share this with you. Let's assume you own a bookstore, like the one we're in. You face crisis every day. The way we used to market books 10 years ago is not the way we market books today. And so, the question is, what has changed in terms of context in the industry? How can I make sense of what's going on? How can I piece information together and get a coherent narrative of what's going on? How can I collaborate with those who play in my sector? There's something called adversarial collaboration. And so, I'm sorry to use any bookshop. I don't want to use a brand. Let's assume that there's a bookshop called ABC Limited. And there's another bookshop called, let's say, we can use this because we are safe to use this bookshop, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, there's Laterna books. How can we, even when we are competitors in the same market, how can we collaborate? It's called adversarial collaboration. We may not agree on everything, but at the same time, we can collaborate and maximize opportunity in that sector where we're playing. That's one principle we learned from this book. How can we, as a team, collaborate? How can we learn from every challenge we face and apply it in the next challenge? Recall that at some point, we faced the challenge of Ebola. At the time, we didn't know that COVID was around the corner. But all the things we learned from Ebola, those who applied it in COVID did better than those who could not apply those lessons. It is called inter-crisis learning. Now, but while the crisis is going on, leaders are supposed to be iterative, meaning that you learn from the crisis and adjust while the crisis is on. And so we have the crisis of, a different way of marketing books. So in your industry, how are you positioning yourself? And what are the new principles you are applying? So whether it's in engineering, whether it's in the non-profit sector, in government, in public affairs, in broadcasting, where you have a fitness entity, there are applications. You've got to find applications from leading in a storm. Once you believe that you are operating at a time of rapid change, there are adequate and enough sufficient principles in this book to apply. Whether as a family person, in the way you parent, there are principles. And in parenting, how do you communicate with your child? Now, before now, we could keep back a lot of information. But today, they have unlimited access to information. They have unlimited access to information. So if you think that there are things you keep back from them, you're obviously making a mistake.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that, sir. Thank you very much. A round of applause for him. Let's look at the second book. This is much bigger and deeper. And I would like to understand why you chose the essay format to write this particular book.
All right. It is a collection of essays I authored between the year 2020 and 2024 in a space of 4 years. I contributed in literally almost Nigerian leading newspapers, This Day, Leadership, Daily Independent, New Telegraph, Premium Times, Cable, News Guru, literally most of the leading newspapers. I was writing for This Day every Monday, but lately now every Friday, including tomorrow. For Daily Independent, at the back of Daily Independent every Monday, Leadership every Monday, Daily Times every Monday. They're all syndicated anyway, so they go to. Then I write for Vanguard every Tuesday, Vanguard newspaper, Business Day every Tuesday. Now, at the time, the most important thing for me is to create awareness and influence policy direction of the country. I believe there is so much for us to contribute as citizens. Now, any government that is not citizen-centered is a government that should have no place in society. There are three important functions. Government should exist for the welfare of the people. And government can't have all the answers. It's not possible. We must create space for citizens to contribute to the kind of country they like to see. How governments can arrive at that destination. And so, every week, as I contribute, what is at the back of my mind is how can we contribute ideas that will make our country a better place. If you notice, for some time I spent a lot of time writing on developments in foreign countries. What can we replicate? What can we modify and apply in our own circumstance? How does geopolitics affect us? I also spent a lot of time writing on politics because I know that politics and policy shape the kind of environment. It shapes our environment to the extent that social services, is provided on the back of policy. And so this is a compendium of my own interventions over a period of 4 years. But looking back, those same interventions are relevant today as they were some years ago when they were first penned or uttered. And so if you want to understand how Nigeria works, read Benet Isofis. If you want to understand some of the ideas that has shaped the way we do things, read Benet Isofis. If you want to understand where we are coming from, where we are going to, read Benet Isofis. It's not just a collection of incisive essays. And so it's also a book of historical trends, a book of public policy analysis, a book of ideas, a book of globalization, how global events impact on us as a people. And so this is not just your typical collection of essays. If you ask me, it is 5 books in one. A book on public policy, a book on history, a book on globalization, a book of ideas.
Thank you so much. There are so many chapters that I absolutely loved. You made a comparison between China and Nigeria, talked about China's leadership playbook and Nigeria's reality, comparing China's visionary leadership and economic growth in Nigeria's challenges and potential. There was also something you talked about, reactive governments and proactive government. And as long as I can remember being in existence, which is not a very long time, is Nigeria has always been a reactive government. Society. We are never proactive with anything. Never. As long as I can remember. We always wait for things to go bad before we now decide to take steps to fix the problem.
Something as simple as a maintenance culture, having a maintenance culture.
Can you speak more on this chapter, please?
All right, so talking about China's playbook. By 1960, if you do a comparison, by 1960, if you compare the GDP of Nigeria in 1960, 1958, 59, 1960, with that of China, they were at par or Nigeria was better off. That's in 1960. If you go immediately after what is now called the Civil War, in 1970, even when we are coming out of Civil War, we were literally at par with China. We were actually better off. Our GDP, our per capita income was better off. And by 1978, when China opened itself to the war, things changed. The trajectory changed. By the year 2000, China's GDP was, let me say, between 6 and 10 times more than that of Nigeria. China's per capita income was at least 6 times that of the average Nigerian, meaning that the average Chinese, who was not better than the Nigerian in 1961 when we got independence, lived better life by the year 1990 than that era, that decade, 1990 to 2000. Lived better quality life, had access, to more education, better health care, better life expectancy than the average Nigerian. What could have been responsible? 3 things. China looked at her leadership recruitment process. Now, before you get to the peak and you're called a proper leader at the national level, you must go through a period of training, tutelage, to arrive at that point. That's 1. Now, 2, China built institutions. China enforced discipline, enforcement of rules and regulations. China had a more open system. Their leaders were more accountable, more transparent in their conduct, more honest in their conduct. China changed her work ethic. China invested in science and technology. These were the same gaps that we deal with in Nigeria and we're still dealing with. And so China applied a different playbook and got the kind of result they got. An amazing result. Today, they're the second biggest economy. Arguably, because you could as well, if you go by purchasing power parity, you can say that the Chinese economy is the biggest economy globally. And so, what stops us? Now, with China, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. Some of the things they applied from 1970, as recent as 1978, we could apply same. Whether it's in our leadership recruitment, speaking to the quality of our leaders, whether in building institutions, not building around individuals, building institutions, whether in the enforcement of rules and regulations, whether having government that is people-centered, not centered on patrons, centered on few power elites. And so, what we canvassed in China's playbook was to raise awareness that, listen, countries can rebuild their foundations and become high flyers. Nigeria can also rebuild systems, build institutions, and become a successful nation, a modern nation in the continent of Africa, if not global. It boils down to quality of leadership.
It definitely does. You touched on so many things. You talked about crowd for hire for 2023 campaign. You also talked about something on morality of the nation. You also, in chapter 29, it said, has democracy failed Nigerians? Has democracy failed Nigerians?
Yes. Now, you see, the ultimate aim of democracy is about the living quality of our people, the quality of living, rather, of our people. Democracy is not about the ritual of casting votes. If it's about the ritual of casting votes, then we don't need democracy. If democracy will not lead to the improvement of the living conditions of the people, we don't need democracy. And that's what we interrogated in that essay. We're asking ourselves, has democracy led to the improvement of the living conditions of Nigerians? Or is there something wrong with the way we practice democracy? That is what we interrogated in that essay. And I think it's still relevant today. With the level of inflation we're dealing with the level of poverty, many years after, we're still dealing with 133 multi-dimensionally poor Nigerians. Most Nigerians can't afford 3 square meals a day. Many can't get the best of education or healthcare. We're still asking ourselves the same question. That question is still relevant. Has democracy failed Nigerians? Because for more than 24 years, we've had a ritual of casting votes. But is that what democracy is all about? Is it about having the National Assembly and the State Assembly? Having sirens, have our governors use sirens. Is that what democracy is all about? If it does not lead to the improvement of the living conditions of our people, I'd like us to reflect on that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So many parts you talked about, but I have this question because it breaks my heart when I look at the state of the nation and how bad things are. You have doctors in strike. The education sector is in shambles. Strike crisis, non-stop. Non-stop in every single sector is one issue. A friend of mine went to the hospital, wanted to go to the hospital. Her mother has cancer, and they went. I think it was Luce they went to. And they wanted to see doctor and said they were not attending to anybody. And the mom was in crisis. She needed to see a doctor as soon as possible. They had to start looking for a private hospital to rush her mom to. The state of the nation is heartbreaking anytime I think about it. I thought about when you were talking about some of the things in the book, and I thought about when my mother was sick, because my mother died of cancer. And we had to fly her abroad because obviously we're not getting the care here. And it breaks my heart to see that we're not getting things right. We're not getting things right. They say it's only a fool that does the same thing and expects a different result. We have been doing the same thing, expecting a different result, which is never going to happen. What is the way forward? What are the steps that we need to take to ensure that this country that I love so dearly, because all my friends, everybody has left Nigeria, everybody's leaving Nigeria in droves, they're giving up, they're packing up their bags and they're leaving. What exactly are the things that we need to do to ensure that we have a future, like we have a better tomorrow? Because it feels like I don't see the good of this. I don't see a better future with the way that we are going. So what do we need to get right?
Now, I like to approach it this way. If you ask the average American, what's the shared vision of America? They love to see America as a land of freedom, freedom to realize your potential. Do we, as a people, have a shared vision as Nigerians? If I ask everybody in the room today, what's your vision for Nigeria? You will hear some very incoherent voices.
I think we
Is that correct?
I think we should ask actually.
No, is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
We don't have a shared vision
We don't.
of what we want from our country, where we want our country to be. The second thing is that, related to that, if you ask everybody in the room now, our view about our leadership, you're going to hear another incoherent voices. The reason is simple. We are influenced by our religious leaning, ethnic sentiments, business interests. We are not influenced by a common aspirational goal as a people. And so, even our leadership, most will feel that leadership as a collective has disappointed us. And so we also have the problem of leadership. Like I've always said, our problem as a country is not lack of ideas. It is the absolute refusal to create opportunity for the best to lead us and articulate our common aspiration and help us realize it. That's a challenge. And so, our country, there is plenty of political rhetoric. Everybody tell you what you want to hear. There is little attachment to the collective goal, and there's little incentive to pursue the realization of that collective goal. The third challenge we face is that there has not been a deliberate attempt to build strong institutions that will not pander to any special interest group. And so, I don't know how many of us that see ourselves as Nigerians in truth, not by lip service, not by rhetoric. Very often we're driven by our own personal interest. Until we put the interest of our country above our own personal interest, we're not going to make so much progress. Until we have leaders that are citizen-centered, not self-centered. I hope you note my choice of words. Until we have leaders that are citizen-centered, not self-centered, you shouldn't expect much. But as citizens, we have right to demand and work for the kind of leadership we want. But we're not willing to pay that price, to make that sacrifice. And so, we found ourselves in a storm, and we'll continue to wallow in the storm until we have a shared national vision, until we get the kind of leadership that will help all of us realize our aspiration, till we build the right institutions that can drive this, that can help us move from dreams to concrete realities. We're a land of limitless opportunity. We have some of the most arable lands globally. We've got smart people. We've got population, which translates to big market. Yeah. But there are no tangible results to show. We've got smart people, but even smaller countries in Africa, there are a number of countries, and if data do not lie, you can say that they have better GDP than Nigeria, better per capita than Nigeria, and ultimately better quality of life than Nigeria. It shouldn't be so, but that's what it is.
Yes. Just on a final note, before I ask your final thoughts on this, we're preparing for the next general election, which is 2027. Because what I'm hoping is that more youths will get involved. Because the more the youths are paying showing interest in being involved in the governance of this country, I think we have, a better chance of survival and growth. What do you hope the youths of today should look out for, or should, demand in general, what to look out for basically in our leader for 2027? I'm not making up my question, basically.
All right, thank you very much. If you read Leading Beneath the Surface, chapter number 39 is an article I wrote immediately after 23 elections, and I titled it Youth and Obedience Afterwards. Now the truth is that in 2023 elections, most youth supported what was called, I think it's still called, the obedience movement.
Yes.
There was some sort of rude awakening amongst our young people. And they realized that they could influence the direction and outcome of elections. The question I asked back then is, okay, now that we're not able to achieve what the young people set out to achieve, what happens thereafter? We had proposed that youth must consistently get involved in politics, because politics is about their future, not about those who are in charge today. It's about the future of the youth. Politics is what shapes whether you have access to education, healthcare, employment. It's simply politics through policy shapes our environment, the environment in which we operate. And so if we don't get involved, then we are outsourcing that to people who will not make decisions that serve our interests. And so we canvass that. We also canvass, if you have gone through.
Yes.
We had said then that in a country where over 70% of the population is useful, Nigeria should harness their energy, talent, and skills to build the nation. The government must embrace the youth and engage them in solving the country's problems. Now the question is that we have a Ministry of Youth Affairs. I don't know how many persons in this room or outside that understands the work that the Ministry of Youth Affairs is doing. We're still not there. We're still not involved in governance. We are not shaping policy outcomes. And so even when we have the dominant population, we've not been able to harness the energy, the intellect of young people to transform society. So it's not late. As young people, around the world, it is youth movements that have changed society. You know what happened with the Arab world? And there are recent developments around the world. So let our young people, they have a responsibility to our nation and even to future generations. They must mobilize, get involved, and shape the socio-political landscape of our country. Change can only happen through the active participation of young people in the politics of our country. Please don't outsource change to anybody.
Yeah.
Our elders cannot drive change. It is young people that can drive change.
Thank you very much. We can see what's happening in, I think, Nepal and some other countries where Gen Z, the Gen Z generation are, more like coming together. And
they are not raising their hands in frustration.
They are taking action. They are taking action. Yes,
so our young people cannot afford to raise their hands in frustration and say nothing is going to change. Election is already rigged. No. We can change the direction of our country. We can change the environment of our country. We can change the outcome of the electoral process if only we get involved and we're committed and we're honest about it.
And we fight for the change that we want. Everybody has to get involved. You can't just leave everything to the leaders. You have to get involved to fight for the change that you want to see in your country.
Whether we like it or not.
Whether we like it or not.
NSAS changed to an extent. It may not be secret. NSAS changed the way police works.
It did. It really did. It really did, because all that used to happen before NSAS, I'm not saying it eliminated it 100%, but it dropped drastically. It did. Because they definitely did not want a repeat of NSAS. They didn't want it to happen again. And we all have to stand up and get involved, just like what he said. And I hope that in 2027, the next general election, that we will see, a bit of change that we want to see.
And we're lucky.
Yes.
Technology has given us the tool.
Yes, it has.
For us to work for change.
Yes. Yes, it has. On a final, we're going to open up the floor for questions, please. Please feel free to ask questions about the book, I have pointed you out, so we'll definitely get to you for sure. But I have one final question. So, what impact, just like we talked about leading in a storm, do you hope this to have?
If our young people get involved, this book would have made the right impact. If it's able to influence the policy direction of our country, this book would have made its impact. If it's able to lead our people to advocate for change, then this book would have made its impact. Thank you very much.
Perfect. So thank you all so much. Leading in a Storm, Practical Leadership Strategies in Crisis Situations is available. You can get your copy signed as well. He will be here to sign it for sure. And also, Beneath the Surface, Essays of Nigeria's Checkered Journey. Please grab your copy. It is available at the burner. It is here. Get your copy, get it signed, and I assure you it will change your mindset about leadership and about Nigeria as well. Thank you so much. God bless you for coming. And congratulations again on,
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.